Hi everyone, it's Aaron, and I'm back with another guitar lesson. It's been a really long time. It's good to be back. Today we're going to go through some music theory and the caged theory concepts that I think are really essential for beginners and like early intermediate players. Maybe you've learned some chord shapes, you've learned some a little bit of music theory, but you want to get more into it in guitar playing and expand your knowledge and learn notes, the names of notes up and down the guitar neck, and different ways to play chords. This is the lesson for you. So it really opened up a lot of my guitar playing once I learned it, and yeah, it's a really great thing for a rhythm guitar player, and even early, if you're just getting into soloing, it's also a fantastic concept to learn. So yeah, this is a little bit more of a theory-based lesson. I know I generally do song tutorials and covers and things like that, but today let's take a step back and focus on the theory of things, and let's get right into it. And let's talk about the cage system. So caged, what is caged? Well, if you're a beginner, you probably know how to play your basic sort of open chords like that. Maybe you've learned it, maybe practicing changing between them, and maybe you're not super comfortable with them yet, and that's totally okay. You can still learn these concepts and apply it to your guitar playing. So what is caged? We have an open C major chord here, which I'm sure you learned, your basic C chord that you learn when you first start playing guitar. You have an A, G, all these just simple sort of cowboy open chords, E major, and then D major. That's caged. That's where that acronym comes from. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna think about it in terms of what really are these chords and how do they work. And once we know how they work, we can move them all over the guitar neck, both up and down the neck, to not only learn music theory and apply it, but we can also kind of spice up our guitar playing a bit, because we can play chords in different positions up and down the neck and get different sounds. So really, what is a major chord? What is a C major? What does this consist of, right? The C major here consists of the root note, which is C. We're here at the fifth string at the third fret, C. Right. The second fret here at the fourth string, that is the note E. That is the major third of C major. So this is the note that determines whether it's a C major chord or a C minor chord. And you may already know this, but again, this is just a really good refresher, and this will make sense once we kind of move these shapes around the neck and apply it. So again, the root note, the third, which determines major or minor, and then we have the fifth. The fifth of a C major chord is G, the note G, right? That's it. There's 3 notes in this major chord, and then up at the top here we have another C note, again the root note, and this high E note here, again the third there, the major third. Okay, so now that we know this, we can think about this and play different shapes with it. So what if we were to play the C major shape up here, the third fret? All we're doing, think about it like this, taking this A major, which you may know, just a basic A major chord, we're sliding it up here, playing like that. We're barring across the third fret. The root note here is the third fret of the fifth string. Barring across the fifth fret here across the D, G, and B strings. And you can play that note up top if you want, but don't really have to. It sounds fine without that. That is also a C major. It is an A-shaped C major chord, root third fret of the fifth string. So we're just taking the shape and we're moving it up here. Okay, now that's C and A of caged right there. So C, A shape, right? The C shape, the A shape. Let's think about it now as the G shape. So think about it like this G open chord here, which I'm sure you may be familiar with. We can play it, we can slide it up here. The root is now going to be the 8th fret of the low E string, 7th fret on the A. We're going to bar across the 5th fret here across the D, G, and B strings. So it's the root again, the 3rd, and there's the 5th in there. That's another form of C major. That's a G shape. Let's think about it like this, right? Where you have the, maybe that's a good way to kind of visualize it there. And we're sliding it up here, but that means we have to bar it there. So just to review again, so we have C major, and C major. These are all the same chord, but they're different voicings. You notice they sound slightly different? There's different tonality because you're kind of moving around, where's the root, where's the 3rd, where's the 5th of each of these chords. They kind of move with it. When they're on different strings, they sound a bit different. It sounds cool because you're going to get different sounds with each chord. Okay. Lastly, we have two more shapes. So this is an E major shape here. You're just taking an E major and bringing it all the way up. So the root note is now at the 8th fret on the low E string, 10 across the A and D strings, and 9 on the G string, and bar across this 8th fret. Just like you have an E major here, or if you're a beginner, you may know it as like an F bar chord. You bring it all the way up here. And again, that's a trickier one because you're really barring across this here. And this one and these shapes will may be tricky for some of you, and that's okay. The point is just understanding the concept so you can apply it. And we're going to apply it in 1 second here. So this is an E major shape, right? It's the E in CAGED up here at the 8th fret. Still a C major chord, but you're getting a different voicing. Okay. Lastly, we have this shape. This is the D shape. So we have maybe one of the first chords you learn, an open D major. Slide it all the way up here. So the root note is this 13th fret on the B string. We have the 12th fret on the G and the high E strings. And if you want, we can add this root in here. It's kind of a weird shape, but you can add this root note here as well on the 10th fret of the D string. That's also a C major. So that's CAGED, right? And you can rewind and kind of watch that again, but you're just moving these open chord shapes up the neck. Based on you're finding that root note, you're thinking about the concept of where's the root, and you're going to the root to make these sort of inverted chord shapes, really. These are different ways to play the same chord. So this is how chords can kind of be abbreviated up and down the neck, because really these are all just triads. So for example, like Jimi Hendrix would play a lot of the C major, play the C major like this. You can play it, you can add little embellishments, suspensions, things like that, playing these sorts of triads, right? So for example, if you're up here, you can play, things like that. These are still, it's still giving you that C major sound, but because of, your fingers, maybe you can't place, a certain voicing this way here, well, you can play it up here a different way. So it really allows you to kind of spice up your playing, and definitely adds a certain element of sophistication maybe to your guitar playing than if you're just playing this, which is great, this works. But if you're playing a C up here, maybe you play this for a bit, right? Maybe you're playing this. But how do you want to spice it up, right? Let's play the C major up here, right? Right? And you're playing like this, right? So it's good. It kind of freshens up the chord progression. Okay, so that's kind of the CAGED concept. with just major chords. We're just focusing on the major chords right now. Okay, so now that we have that under our belt, let's look at some songs and some examples, so some things you can kind of play around with this. So we have Substitute by The Who. Classic song, right? What we're gonna do is kind of think of those caged shapes that I just showed you. We're gonna think of them now simply as what are called triads, just a group of 3 notes. So we're gonna start here. We're now working with the chord D major. D major here is at the root at the 5th fret, barred across the 7th fret here, across the D, G, and B strings. But we're gonna play it. The 7th fret on the G, 7th fret on the B, 5th fret on the high E. So we're just gonna focus on the very top part of this shape, just those 3 notes. Mute, everything else is muted. And then we're gonna move down here to a different D major shape. This is the D shape. Same chord, just a different voicing. So, do, 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 do. And the next shape, it's an A major. So an E-shaped A major, but we're only hitting the top 3 notes. Everything else is muted, so you can just play 6th fret on the G string, 5th fret on the B and the high E. Then we're going to slide that same shape down 2 frets, just to a G major. Go back to that D major shape. You're at the 2nd fret on the A string, 3rd fret on the B, and 2nd fret on the high E. That's just your sort of basic D major chord. Okay, so we have that's the intro to Substitute by The Who, right there. So this, it's using a sort of caged concept. We're playing different voicings of these chords up the neck, right? But we're just really focusing on these triads, these major triads. They're all major chords. Just you have the chords D, A, and G. That's the only chords in there. But you're playing these different shapes, and it adds a different sound, a different tonality to it. So that's how it goes. Just an example there. Okay, one more quick example, and then I want to spend time. We'll go through one more example here, and then we'll get into an example where I'm just going to play over a chord progression, try and play as many different ways as I can to show you. Okay, Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison. Great beginner song. Maybe you've learned it, and if you haven't, that's okay too, because it's just a few chords, right? So we're just going to focus on the intro to the song. We're going to focus on the intro, which goes do 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 do. So it's G, C, G, D. That's it. That's the intro. But what he does to kind of spice it up, we focus on it as what are called double stops. These are 2 notes played. They're usually 2 notes that are part of a chord, right? So for example, the chord progression starts on G. We play a D-shaped G up here at the 7th fret on the G and the high E string, and the 8th fret on the B string. So we take this shape, we slide it up here, it becomes a G. But we're just gonna focus on, we're going to take this note away. We're going to focus on the B string at the 8th fret and the high E string, the 7th fret there. That's the notes G and B, which are the root, right? And the major 3rd of the G major. Okay. So we're just going to focus on that. So it's almost like it's a G major sort of sound here. I slide up to this shape. This is now, like we have an A shape. We slide all the way up here. It becomes an F because we're now the 8th fret on the A string. So A, B flat, B, C, D, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F. We're going to focus on the top part of that shape. We're going to just play the 10th fret on the B string, 8th fret on the high E. So slide that up one more whole step or 2 frets. It's a G major now, a double stop. But really, you can play it as triads too. You can play 3 notes, you can play as 2 notes, but I think 2 notes sounds better. But just gonna using this example to illustrate the concept. So that's the G shape, the F to the G. The last shape here is 10th fret on the high E string, 12th fret on the B string. So then you go back down, back to that F, 10th fret on the B, 8th fret on the high E, 8th fret on the G, 7th fret on the high E. So, right? And then the next shape, that C shape that I played earlier. So we're playing a D major, we're moving it all the way up here, so it becomes a C. 13th fret on the B string, 12th fret on the high E. 13th fret on the high E still, 15th fret on the B. That's the next shape. That's a B flat. Next double stop here is this shape, which I can barely play because of the cutaway. My guitar's kind of cut off here, difficult to reach. 17th fret on the B string, 15th fret on the high E. Same riff, just moved up to the, starting with on C major instead of G major here. So move it up. Oop, there it is. That's the riff. That's the Brown Eyed Girl riff that everybody knows. And it's a cool one. It's really cool, and it teaches this concept really well. So let's just quickly review kind of what we've gone through, and then we'll go through one more song example of using these CAGED shapes in major triads. Okay. So just to review again, we can take chords, these open chords, and move them up and down the neck. We can move them all around. So for C major, we can play a C major like this, which is maybe the first C major probably that you've learned. Play C major like this. You can play like this, which is tricky and kind of weird and unusual, but you can play like that. You can play like this. You can play like this. All the same chord, but you can move it around the neck. Because all of those things have one thing in common. They have the root, they have the third, and they have the fifth, which make up the major chord. Okay, that's really the summary of it here. So let's kind of go through one more sort of song example, and this is actually using kind of the same chords that we used in Substitute by The Who. So same chords as before. We're starting with A major, going to a G major, D major, G major. This is Franklin's Tower by the Grateful Dead. So we have A, G, D, G, A. Try it again. Whole song. That's why he's a great example, is because this is the whole song is just those chords. Just A, G, D, G, and it starts over again, over and over and over and over again until the end of the song. But what you can do with that is you can practice the shapes that I was showing you earlier. So we can take an A major here. We can play it. Let's start with this E shape here. Go to the G major E shape. Maybe we want to do the D major here with this A. Slide it up here. And when I say shape, I know it can be a bit confusing, but by shape I mean open position shape, caged shape, right? And we're using an E major shape up here at the 5th fret, so it becomes an A major. And that's it. I'm gonna play in different position. Ready? Here we go. Using A shapes way up here. And this is an E major shape. Why don't I use a C shape? This is a tricky one up here. Sorry, A, G, D, just a C major chord, moved way up here. You can play like this too. Just using a C major shape. So experiment with these shapes, move them up and down the neck, keep these concepts in mind, and it helps you learn the note names, because you can just move this around the neck. It's almost like the cheat code to learning the guitar neck, because you can just move all these shapes and you're never really out of place, because you're not thinking C major, how do I play that? Well, you just find those root notes, find these little triads like I showed you, or even the double stops like I showed you, right? So again, listen to songs like Substitute, Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison, listen to Franklin's Tower by the Grateful Dead. You can learn these different chord voicings and how they kind of spice up a song. That really, the songs themselves are actually quite simple, but adding these voicings, knowing these caged concepts makes the songs much more interesting and much cooler. So that's kind of all I had to show you today. And we can, in the future, we'll be talking more about sort of music theory concepts, getting into different rhythm guitar ideas, maybe some soloing ideas as well. I kind of have plans to do that in the future, but this is a great starting point. It's a lot of information, but just something to digest and learn. Even if you're not quite there yet, you can't maybe struggling to maybe really work on that shape and get that sounding right. That's okay. The point is, learn the concept. Your fingers will eventually, if you keep practicing, you'll be able to play these shapes later. But the point is, learn the concept now and understand why and how the guitar fretboard really works, and you can really elevate your playing. So it's great to be back on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for all the support. I know it's been a while. Thanks for your patience with me uploading another video here. We've crossed the 1,000 subscriber mark, which is just incredible. I'm so thankful and appreciative for your support out there, and I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded. So again, thank you for your patience, and I'm looking forward to more videos in the future here soon. So thanks a lot. Take care of yourselves out there. Bye-bye.